So what we're going to talk about today is thinking about how we can create and stick with a realistic holiday budget. Obviously, staying with the budget is the most important part of that. Managing our holiday expenses for peace of mind. How to plan our shopping and avoid last minute spending. And some alternative gifting. Obviously, we need to be a little creative if we're trying to, some of us within a budget, if we may want to have some gifts that aren't the classic type of gifts and aren't as expensive as what we might think of typically buying. So again, questions, comments, please let me know as we go through. So the first part about the holiday budgeting is to indeed figure out and assess your finances. You want to be realistic and look at your overall financial picture. And then how much can you comfortably allocate to the holiday without causing stress? I think this is probably the key for our session today is we want to be realistic. We want to understand our finances, and we want to make sure that our spending is within a realistic amount of money so we don't cause stress throughout the rest of the year. So first thing we want to do is we have to think of the spending category. A lot of us just think of gifts, but again, to be realistic, we need to think of the entire holiday. So not only gifts, but decorations, food, entertainment, travel, all those things really should go. Everything that you are going to do for the holiday season that you normally wouldn't do, but for the holidays really needs to be part of your overall budgeting for the holidays, right? If we just talk about gifts, but then we're going to do some traveling or do some other things, we are forgetting about other parts of the holiday, and that puts the additional stress on us and on our budget. So again, I can't emphasize this enough. We need to look at our entire holiday spending, not just gifts. So I've just put on the screen some of the other typical things of the decorating, food, entertainment, and travel. So once we have those foundations, looking at our finances, trying to figure out how much we can spend, making sure we understand where we're going to spend it, then we want to set our total budget for the holiday season. And then I would encourage or emphasize or suggest that you then break down your budget within your specific categories. So the categories, at least in my example here, the gifts, decorating, food, entertainment, and travel. But whatever your categories are, you might have something different. Just be aware of that and then break down your budget within the total budget, break it down to the categories. And then you want to build in a little bit of a buffer. You want to leave a little wiggle room. Something unplanned is going to occur. Later on, I'm going to even suggest you might want to buy one or two extra gifts to have at your resources in case something comes up at the end you're not thinking about. But just think about it, especially if you're going to do some entertaining, if you're going to be doing the holiday meals and the food, there's probably going to be something that's going to happen. And so build in a little buffer into your budget. So I think the bottom line of this first emphasis on creating the budget for the holiday season is you want to try to find a sweet spot, as I say at the bottom of the screen, between spreading holiday cheer and keeping your cash flow in line. So any questions or comments? Ideas, additional things we want to talk about in the first part of this about actually physically creating the budget? Okay, so now we created the budget. We want to monitor that holiday budget. So we want to keep track of our spending. Again, we're going to be spending money in a relatively short period of time. So you want to figure out some way to track your expenditures as you go. You might have a budgeting tool. You might just have it on an Excel spreadsheet or some kind of a spreadsheet, a numbers or Excel spreadsheet. You might want to just keep it in pen and paper, the old-fashioned way, on a notebook piece of paper that you have your categories and have what you're spending on. But you do want to sort of keep track of it. Again, you're going to be spending an additional amount of money you normally don't spend in a relatively short period of time. So this should be fairly easy to keep track of your expenses as you go. And then again, we talked about probably the best way to set up that budget is to have the interior budget with each of your categories. You know, using the example, if we have a $1,000 holiday budget, we might have $400 towards gifts, $200 towards food, $200 towards entertainment, and then the final $200 for travel. So just think of it from that standpoint. So you want to try to keep within the budget of each of the categories. It just makes it a lot easier. But if you see that one category you are going to spend more on than you planned on, you need to either figure out, try to slow down another category, or find some more cost-efficient solution, so to speak. And we'll talk more about that. We're going to talk about it generally here in the next one. You know, consider do it yourself gifts, get creative, make gifts, and some other cost-saving alternatives. And we'll talk about some more cost-saving alternatives in a couple of minutes. But as long as you're keeping track of your spending as you go, that gives you an early warning system that you're good, your budgeting was fine, everything is going according to the plan. Or if it isn't, it lets you know quickly that you're spending more money than you planned and have to try to figure out a way to slow it down. This is where we get into trouble if we don't slow it down and we spend a lot more than we planned. That's when we sort of get into the post-holiday anxiety. And I think the last thing that we want to do is spend all of the following year paying off for our holiday spending from the prior season. We get ourselves into a vicious cycle. It takes us a year to pay off everything. We start over. It takes us a year to pay it off again. We're constantly paying off for our holiday and helping us create and monitor the budget. Anybody can create a budget, but we do need to monitor it and understand the budget and help it work with our expenses. And then another thing I think is very important is to communicate. Discuss how you're celebrating with everyone else so you don't have an uncomfortable situation. I don't say you have to say you have a specific budget amount, but just talk about that this year, or the plan is you want to celebrate, but you don't want to have an uncomfortable situation where somebody is bringing you a very exotic and expensive gift and you aren't in that same situation. This obviously we're talking about with adults, whether they be family members, whether it be our parents, our adult children, or adult grandchildren, neighbors, friends, etc. Obviously, it's a little bit different with the youngsters, so to speak, the children, and you have to figure out that situation also, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But the whole idea is to set up expectations before the holiday season comes, especially if you are having to change what you typically do. A lot of us have been really affected by inflation. Our budgets are tighter right now, our overall budget, which signifies that our holiday budget should also be a little tighter. So especially if you're changing your custom or your habits from prior years, I think it is extremely important to communicate, discuss what you're going to do before it happens so you don't have any unrealistic expectations. Good examples, my wife gives she calls a girlfriend's holiday luncheon every year. And basically everyone, or almost everyone brings her a gift as part of that. And this year she specifically asked that no gifts be provided. So she sent that out to all the invitees, not just one or two or whatever. So everybody's sort of on the same page and understands that she wants to make sure that no one brings her a gift from that standpoint. So everyone's on the same page. So she's communicated that, set her expectations as to what she wants to have happen, and wants everybody to respect that. So just a quick example of that from a personal standpoint, something that's changed in past years. Some of the people would bring her gifts. That was fine. But she just understands the stresses involved with the finances this year for some people. So she communicated that with everyone. So bottom line here is customize your budget to fit your lifestyle and priorities. You'll enjoy the holiday season and avoid financial stress. So again, we want to talk about, we don't want to be paying for our holiday giving for the entire next year. So and to help do that, you need to know what your top priorities are for the holiday spending. If you really want to have a more lavish meal with a lot of food, festive house, then that's fine. That is in essence your gift for everyone. And let them know that we're not going to be giving as many gifts as you have in the past. Again, set those expectations early, as soon as you can, so everyone's on the same page and understands what's going on. And again, that way you don't create those uncomfortable situations. Thoughts, questions, comments? Right. So avoiding the rush hours, I call it, or last minute, as most people call it, holiday shopping. The obvious one is to start early. But part of this is to find the right gifts and take advantage of sales also. I know as a teenager, I guess back then, I was one that I always waited, seemed like the last minute I put off buying gifts. I'm not a big shopper, put off buying gifts. And two things really happen. You're going to be in a tight situation for time. And I think the biggest thing is you're not going to buy the right gift because you haven't given a lot of thought. You don't have much time, and you're just going to find something that may or may not be right for the person. It's probably not something you would normally give them, but you've put yourself into a difficult situation. So the earlier you can start, the better. And very much in conjunction with that is creating that gift list. And it's not just the people on that list, but you should probably come up with some gift ideas for them so you're not starting from blank. And again, this goes all the way back. This really puts everything together that we've talked about. You want to start early. You want to give them the right gift. You want that gift to be within your budget that you have given for your gift giving. So as you create the budget for gift giving, you want to know who all the people are that you're going to plan on buying gifts for. And we need to put all these factors together. And this is really what's going to create a good experience, is to have a thought process before you ever step out the door or get online to start buying gifts, is have an overall picture of who you're buying gifts for, approximately how much you're going to spend on those, and some ideas as to a gift that will fit within that budget. So really this, I think, is the key, to have some gift ideas before you actually step out and actually start shopping, whether it be online or in person. And speaking of that, a lot of people talk about shopping local now. Shop in your downtown area if you're in a smaller town, or in your neighborhood if you're in a larger city, etc. I live in Chicago. live in the city limits itself. So I have some alternatives. We can do the main shopping downtown, and also within the neighborhood where I live, there are lots of small shops. Um, I like to support those local businesses. Also, sort of helps you find some unique or different gifts because you have a lot of small stores. They're one of a kind stores. They're not a big chain. You are going to find things there that the person you're giving the gift to has not seen before, and it's going to be a unique gift. And then once you've done that, then a lot of us need to shop online some. I've gone from both ways. I used to, a few years ago, shop online totally. And then I sort of went to trying to buy everything local. And so I've sort of blended the two now, trying to fine tune it a little bit. So, but a lot of the experts say, should support your local businesses. And then to avoid stress and parking hassles, as you get closer to the deadline, do your online shopping. So we want to consider do-it-yourself gifts also. They can be more meaningful. They can also be cost-effective. And not just do-it-yourself gifts, but the way and who you buy gifts for. And we're going to spend a little bit of time on that on the next slide, talking about alternative gifting also. And we talked about that emergency situation previously earlier today in the session, and this goes with that, having that contingency plan, have a few generic gifts for unplanned circumstances. If you're the host, somebody may be invited. Right at the end, you may have somebody that's been invited and they have an extra guest or family member that's staying with them, wasn't really planned, and that person is going to be invited to your house too. So just be prepared for that contingency plan, and have a generic gift or two available as needed. So with that last minute shopping, trying to avoid that, the rush hour shopping. Also, wrap as you go. If we do all these things, we shop early, we create a good gift list, etc. Wrap as you go. Spreading out tasks reduces the holiday stress. We wait and wrap all those gifts the night before, 2 days before. We're just adding to that layer of stress, not necessarily financial, but just a holiday stress. We want to enjoy it. If we can eliminate some stresses, let's do that. There's going to be some stresses from the holiday that come up that we can't avoid, but there are some that we can clearly avoid. It just allows you to enjoy the holiday season without that last minute rush. So let's talk about some alternative holiday ideas I've sort of talked about before. Some of these are well known, a few maybe not quite as well known, but figure out a way to not have to buy gifts for everyone, especially in our financial times now with the inflation, and a lot of people, not just us, but a lot of our friends and neighbors and relatives are also feeling the crunch from inflation. So instead of having everybody buy a gift for everyone else, again, we might want to eliminate the children here a little bit, but from the adults, this is a good year, if you haven't done it already, to do some type of gift exchange where you are either drawing names, or have a white elephant, or have a secret Santa gift exchange where instead of buying gifts for 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 different people, you are just buying for one, but everybody's buying one gift, everybody's receiving one gift. So there's lots of ways to do that. And then even the white elephant one may be where or even with any of these, you can set a dollar amount limit if you want. Or with a white elephant, it might even be regifting something that you have in your house that you were gifted before, prior holiday season, that somebody had to hurry up and get something. They didn't really give you something that you wanted, something you haven't used, something you haven't even opened up yet. We all have some of those. So just think of the different ways to do this. A lot of us maybe do it at work or have done it at work in the past. Maybe we haven't done this exactly with our family. We've been at some friends' houses, not right on the holiday itself, but a week or two before, where we have a gift exchange. So some of those things you've done in other environments, you might want to transpose that to the holiday itself, to relieve stress, not only from you, but from everyone. And this is particularly easy to do if you are the place where the entertainment is going. You sort of control the situation. You can suggest that gift exchange, a white elephant, drawing names, whatever it is you want to do. If you're going somewhere else, maybe you can encourage the host to do that. You can help them set it up. You can help them work through it. They're busy doing other things also. So, I would encourage you, if you are not the host during the holiday season, to go ahead and consider exploring some gift alternatives with the host, and even helping the host a little bit with maybe relaying what those expectations are to the other guests. And then just trying to physically save a little bit of money, take advantage of your gift rewards or your cash rewards that you have on your credit card. A lot of us, I'm surprised just from research I've done, how many dollars or gift points we have on our credit cards that we don't think about or don't use. The holiday season is probably a great time to use those if you haven't already done it throughout the year. And then take advantage of some free family holiday fun. I probably should have had the word family in there, but going to tree lighting events. I know my mother, over the last few years, as she's aged a little bit, just loves driving around to some of the areas where there are some nice lights, where people have made some nice front yard holiday displays. That's something that she enjoys. Doesn't really cost anything. Tree lighting celebrations, lots of things going around for either free or very limited amount of money that you can enjoy the holiday season. They're only there for the holiday anyway, short period of time, especially if you have some family or guests coming in from out of town. All communities have their own little area of holiday fun. They all may be similar to other cities or towns, but they have their unique characteristics. And, it's a great time to share what your local community does with friends or relatives that are coming in. And the best thing from our perspective is that a lot of these are free. So we said about some alternatives. Think about giving the gift of time. So this would be where you would just sort of make a little generic gift certificate. You're at Christmas, at the holiday time, you're giving them the certificate you made, and the gift within that gift certificate is your use of time, where they can, maybe it's a parent with some small children, you are giving them a free babysitting visit. They can call you up and you're going to go take care of their little ones. That's your gift to them. Or maybe you are going to provide them a home cooked meal. They can just give you a date and you're going to come over and cook a meal for them. So just don't be afraid. That is very valuable. If you think about it, they're going to have to pay for the babysitting. They got to pay to make the meal. Plus, people don't like to necessarily cook as much as us. If you enjoy cooking, you're good at cooking. Consider something like that, and giving somebody, you'll go over to their house, cook a meal, wash the dishes behind it, do everything from that standpoint. So lots of ways to give the gift of time, and especially in the Get Set Up environment. It's set up for people that are 60 and over primarily in our audience, and we do have a little bit more time than people that are working full time, have children. Maybe aren't as skilled at doing some of the things we are doing. So definitely consider that. If you think about it, giving that gift of time in a special, creative way can really go a long ways and make you happy, save you a little money, and definitely help the recipient in regards to some of the same factors. They can have a nice evening, and you are providing the structure behind it. And you really want to think about, especially with family, you want to personalize the gift as much as possible. And that goes back to, thinking about it beforehand. And again, it doesn't have to be something big. Maybe you have, maybe your sister's been puzzled with she's trying to make some type of fancy cookie or some type of fancy meal or dessert. And maybe you can buy a kitchen utensil that will help her make that reality happen. Find a recipe that goes with that. Spend some time just doing something very creative, very personal. Again, we can do that with a limited amount of cash, but it would go a long way. She knows that this is something she wants to do, hasn't had the time to do it, or is struggling to find the best way to make something. That's just using one example. It doesn't have to be just that, but buying a kitchen tool, giving a great recipe that goes with it, is really, again, going to be very personal. This is for somebody you know well, and it can really make a big impact on them. So again, try to be creative. Think about what they've told you throughout the year, the last few months. What are they struggling with? That's something that you can fix or help fix with a gift, something along those lines that we've just talked about. The another thing to do is, instead of having a lot of holiday gifts, organize a group volunteering party where you will go, or volunteering a session or event where you will go with your friends and volunteer, whether it be at a food bank, whether it be distributing gifts to others. There are lots of volunteer organizations that need a lot of work, and around the holiday season, they need even more volunteers. So this gets away, so to speak, from you buying gifts for your friends. And, really, maybe a lot of you don't need anything. So you can either give time, or you can give actual gifts or money, all to pick an organization and donate to that organization, where the money will really be a lot more useful and enjoyable to people that are not in as good as financial situation as we are in. I know I do give a session on volunteering and how to give gifts, etc., gifts of money throughout the year for volunteers. And in there, I talk about, and I do some volunteering too, that, this volunteering is not just you helping someone else. You get a good reward, self-satisfaction and enjoyment from that also. So it really is a two-way street. So again, if you are lucky enough to be in a fairly good situation financially, consider getting your group together that's in the same circumstance you are, and maybe all getting together and giving either time and or money to a cause or organization that you like, and that can really magnify and spend some additional energy, time, and money in a very good way. So bottom line here is, your gift buying should be on sentiment rather on dollars. And that if you're spending more money because you're not being creative, you're not being personal, you're just giving a gift to give one, and your gift is more based on dollar value, that really what you're doing is you're giving yourself a headache, a financial headache. So really make your gift giving be on sentiment rather than on dollar value, and that will avoid you going into what I call a debt headache. That's what the holiday season is about. This whole session today is, let's just think a little bit differently if we want to, or we need to find a different way, so we aren't paying for our holiday throughout the entire next year. So questions, comments, other ideas, other things that have worked for you in the past, or you're thinking about doing this year that you would like to share with everyone? I would greatly appreciate hearing from you if you have anything. All right, so just like to have a brief summary of the session, just to recap. And as those of you know that you've signed up for this class to Get Set Up, you will get an email from Get Set Up, and I'll give you a summary of this in writing. But let's just do a brief summary now. So you want to be realistic about your finances and how much you can spend. That's the big thing, is being realistic with yourself to begin with. If you go into debt and it takes all the next year to pay off your gifts you bought, you will not have a good outlook for the next holiday season. You may already be in that vicious cycle now, and that's what we're trying to avoid. So the big thing is be realistic with yourself, and then communicate what's going to happen to others, so you are not in an uncomfortable situation. They're not in an uncomfortable situation. And that's something you need to talk about a little bit more. You can do it before the actual holiday and before you get into that uncomfortable situation. So being realistic and honest to yourself, and being honest to others. So really realistic to yourself and honest to others is really what you can do to break the cycle. If you are in that cycle now, not saying you are, but if you've been constantly over the years basically taking a full year to pay your gift giving from the prior holiday season, we really need to figure out a way to stop that from happening and get away from the stress. And those are some of the things we've talked about today. And then what gets a lot of us into trouble is we think about gifts when we put a budget in place. But remember, that's only part of the holiday outlay for a lot of us. You need to include other things in your holiday budget, whether it be decorations, whether it be food, whether it be entertainment, whether it be travel, or whatever it is you know that you're going to do this holiday season, just for the holiday season. That really needs to be part of your holiday budget. If you're only considering your holiday budget to be gifts, you are falling into the trap of paying for other things. And that really is a holiday payment, and you need to consider all these things into your holiday budget, or you're going to get back into that same trap where you're taking the entire next year to pay for your holiday expenditures. I think if you break down your budget within your specific categories, it helps you out for a couple of reasons. One, you're setting the overall budget. If the categories are more than your overall budget, you have to figure out before you start how to bring that more into line. And then more specifically, as you start spending, you want to think about within that budget. A lot of us are buying gifts earlier on before we buy food or the entertainment stuff. And if we spend a whole bunch more on gifts, or almost all the money we have for the season on gifts alone, we don't have enough for the food, entertainment, decorations, etc. So you want to be realistic. And then if you see you are headed to go over budget, what we talked about is get creative with some of your gift giving. Personalized versus expensive. Figure out ways to not give gifts to everyone, to have some type of gift exchange, some kind of fun or gag type of event that you might want to have, thinking of the white elephant, something that is different, so you are not buying as many gifts. And you can also set a price range if you would like. We just talked about the customized gift certificates. I think this is a great idea. You are giving the gift of time to someone else at some later date. They can cash in that gift certificate, whether it be in January, whether it be in March. Maybe you're going to give them something that is something they want to do in the summertime, but that way they really look forward to it for 3 or 4 or 5 months before it actually happens. You can remind them of it. Yes, tell them you really meant it. You're anxious to do it. So you have that buildup of something that it is something they really like. It's something that won't cost you as much money, and you have taken the time to personalize and make them excited and grateful for the gift you've given them. Then as a closing comment, just we want to enjoy the holidays. Don't forget to do some free family